Welcome to AutoInstruct. In today's video we're going to show you how to install a P3 Cars vent gauge in a MK7 Golf R. For this you'll need a trim removal set, some Torx drivers and the P3 gauge itself. This consists of the LCD screen which sits inside the vent, the control box or the computer board and the OBD loom. Let's show you how to do it. So the first step is to remove this side piece. So you get your trim removal tool in the back of it, spread it open, get your fingers in there and then work your way down. There'll be 3 clips that need to be popped open, like so, and remove the trim piece. Now we're going to remove the vent itself from the dashboard. So to do this, there's 4 clips in each corner. The first one's located under here and you can press on it using your finger. Once you've done that, get your trim removal tool underneath and lift up, and the bottom side will come out as well. Then you can actually put your trim removal tool up the back to reach the top corner. So, and then with a bit of pulling, you'll be able to actually get the vent out. And then we have the vent removed from the vehicle. Now we've removed the piano black trim from the vent, very carefully because the clips are quite fragile. And we need to remove the top 2 slats out of the vent to slide in the gauge. Pull out the vent from the rest of the enclosure and set the enclosure to the side. Now we need to remove these top 2 slats. To do this, they simply pop out of these little holes around on either side. Now when you do this, you don't want to pop off the entire side, otherwise it's quite difficult to align. So I suggest holding it here to keep firm pressure and then trying to pop off just the single slats themselves. There's the first 2 out on this side. And there's a lower slat as well. Flip it over. Takes a little bit of force to get them out. We'll remove the top slat first. There's one. And the next one is out on one side, and once it's out on one side, it's relatively easy to get out of the last one. Like so. So there's our 2 slats removed from the vent. Just give it a bit of a twist to bring it back into line. There we go. Set these vent slats to a side and keep those because you'll need them if you want to return it back to stock. Now the gauge itself simply slides into the holes that we took the slats out of. There's the first 2. And there's the second 2. So there's the gauge neatly installed in the vent assembly. Now we need to install the gauge into the vent housing. So we're going to run the cable through the far left-hand slat, like so, and out the back and pull it through. Make sure it's not twisted and square, and then the vent will slide into the housing, into the slots on either side. Get a little bit of force to slide it in. There we go. So there's the vent installed back in the housing, and our cable's running neatly out the back. We now have the P3 gauge installed into the vent itself, and it's starting to look really good. When putting the slats back in, make sure the side-to-side adjustment pin is lined up and correctly installed, otherwise you'll lose that movement. Now it's time to reinstall the vent into the vehicle. There's a hole back here in the vent pipe to feed the cable through. So we'll feed that through, pull it down, and then gently slide the vent back into place. Making sure all 4 clips are in place. Now we need to install the OBD plug. So under the dashboard you need to remove this piece of trim here. We've already undone the screw. Simply pull on it and it'll pop down and out. Then you can feed down the OBD port, plug, down the back and drop it out. Then simply plug it into the OBD port. Nice and firmly. Pull the cable back up and reinstall the black trim piece. So here we have the cable come out from the OBD port. On this is a few other optional extras. First of all is the analog boost gauge, 2 analog inputs to use as you desire, and lastly the dimmer wire, which controls the brightness of the gauge in conjunction with the headlights. So we're going to go ahead and plug this into the control box and firmly screw in the connectors. So now, using some double-sided tape, we've stuck the control box to the piece of metal that was here. We cleaned it up with some alcohol first as it was quite greasy. That's stuck on now. The cables have been tucked around the back here and taped up with electrical tape, so that's looking quite clean. And lastly, we'll put the trim piece back in place, like so. There's 3 clips. And we'll start the vehicle and test it out. So once you've started the car, the gauge will turn on. So that's looking really good. I'll just run you through some of the modes that it's got now. So here we have boost. A couple of revs, you can see it moving up and down. We've got coolant temperature, so 71 degrees Celsius. These can be changed between Fahrenheit and Celsius as well. Air intake temperature, 42 degrees. Ignition timing. Exhaust gas temperature, climbing quite quickly. Throttle position in percentage. RPM of the vehicle. Speed, which is obviously 0 at the moment. 0 to 100 time, so it'll say ready, and this is where you can do a launch and get your 0 to 100 time. Battery voltage, so 14.4 volts. Air fuel ratio, and back to boost. Thanks for watching today's video on how to install a P3 vent gauge in a Mark 7 Golf R. This gauge and the trim removal tools you saw can be purchased through our online store. For more guides and tutorials, head over to AutoInstruct.com.au. Thanks for watching.